Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Family, you all know for the past few years, I have been doing nonstop reparations commentary in one way or another, not only on this platform, African Diaspora News Channel, and our app and other places, but also on other platforms that I've had the privilege of being on and help to grow and build. With that being said, one of the folks that I have really discussed the past recent years is Chris Lodgson. He is one of the top organizers for CJEC. This is a powerful reparations alliance and group in California. They were very effective in getting bills effectuated to the point to where all it needed was a few steps for them to actually pass and get tangibles for Black Americans, descendants of the formerly enslaved. And he, at every turn, has been a very powerful resource to go to learn the ins and outs of the goings on. I broke on a lot of news because of his commentary. But that being said, not too long ago, he gave some details. And if you look at him, you can tell that he is in a legal setting behind him, because he is an insider organizer that makes sure he stays on top of all of the things that they're doing as the lawmakers are working to pass reparations bill. And he always sounds the alarm on any mess making and any form of sneak attacks and sabotage that they have going on. Well, he made a video, as I mentioned before, not too long ago, some weeks back, related to something that he said that he left out in some of his original commentary, one of his original commentaries. Watch this.
I told you about the California bill SB437, that the bill wants us to do more reparations research. This time about genealogy. SB437 wants to waste millions of yours and my taxpayer dollars to do it. Even the genealogists say so.
Professional genealogists created genealogical proof standards that have been in place for decades.
And how we're opposing that, since we don't need no more reparations research. But I left something out of that last video because I think it needs its own special attention. So here we go. What's up? This is Chris from CJEC, the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, and California Organizations for Reparations. Here's what I didn't say last time. Yes, we don't need more reparations research, but here's another big reason not to support SB437. This is AB7 by Assemblymember Isaac Bryan. The bill lets California colleges give preferences in admission to students who are descendants of those who were enslaved in the United States. But how will the colleges know who those students are? Well, that's where the genealogy research in SB437 comes in. Sounds good, right? Wrong. If SB437 becomes law and AB7 becomes law, students who want the college admission preference in AB7 could have to wait at least until the research in SB437 is done. Bottom line for students, more waiting. Here's another example. This is AB 57 by Assemblymember Tina McKinnon. The bill would set aside money for housing loans for residents who are descendants of those who were enslaved in the United States. Put aside for a moment that the fund that funds this program is completely empty and the program isn't accepting any new applications. Let's say there was money in this program and it does what AB 57 wants it to do. How would the program know which residents to give the housing loans to? Again, that's where the research in SB 437 comes in. If a person wants the housing loans in AB 57, they have to wait until the research is done from SB 437. Bottom line for people who need money for housing, more waiting. You get the picture? I could say the same thing for any and every bill, policy, or program. Share this video. Leave a comment. Stop the stalling. Stop the studying. No on SB 437.
Wow. Family, this is the reason why we need to listen to the experts on the ground, because do you all see how he breaks down those nuances and how it's very easy not to be able to keep up with what's happening there? He mentions not only SB 437, which has everything to do with that research, which he felt was a stalling tactic. Of course, I've discussed that SB 437 because, as he mentioned before, there have already been more than enough studies, and he brings all sorts of references to why there are no studies that are necessary, and they have all the resources that they need to prove that in no limited time. I believe in one of his previous ones, he even discussed how that could actually be utilized at the federal level, the research that was done related to reparations federally as well, but that's a different story. He also discussed here about AB7 and AB57. Now, I need not repeat the very things that you just heard yourself there, but I would like for you to comment below and make sure that you stay connected to this dear brother, because what he breaks down is the fact that every which way you look at this, the fact that this research is a delay tactic, clearly a sabotage attack, because it affects both the AB7 that has to do with showing preference to students that are the descendants of Black Americans that were descendants of slaves, but also notwithstanding all the problems of the AB 57 that has set aside for the descendants of the formerly enslaved related to housing loans. He talks about the fact that that's also hinges on the SB 437, which has to do with these unnecessary genealogy research tactics. So the point is pretending like they're really about that life of reparations when these are only tricks, and he's broken down for us that all the research in the world has been done. I want us to really push that out to let us know, family, there's no research that needs to be done anymore because the research has already been done and our brother has already given us the sources to prove that in no limit of time. We're going to bust you, you California lawmakers, you traitors out there. We've already talked about the fact that the Black Legislative Caucus there secretly wrote a letter to the liberal white governor Gavin Newsom asking for certain set-aside reparations funding for their control. Yes, the Black lawmakers there wants to be able to control some of the money that's supposed to be for us, for the administrative work in part for us, for reparations. They secretly wrote him a letter talking about let us control who gets it. The very people that told you they sabotaged their own bill right before the election because they claimed this man threatened them. They left that part out. Thank God I heard my brother say it on a radio station and I revealed it to you. I can't wait to see what you have to say about it. I'm going to be discussing the other hidden hand behind a whole lot of other stuff that's going on, specifically related to Trump and the powers that shouldn't be imminent threat to invade the streets of the United States with military. They're using legitimate issues that we raise to hide behind it. I'm going to be talking about the connections between national politics, geopolitics, and the spiritual connotation that goes with it and what's really going on. You don't want to miss that. I have a webinar coming up September 15th. Go to my website for details. That's